These dudes speaking straight trash. Like, disagree, disagree. Stop capping. Tell him again, Mr. West. Tell him again. I cannot change that. How you know that? That's the part that I did not like. That right there. Period. Disrespectful destiny. Disrespectful, Dusty. A dust in a suit. Shut your gay ass up. You don't know who she know. You don't know who she know. Okay, and good for you, Dusty. All them Dusty comments. If you say so. Shut up. You so ignorant. Please. Shut up. Right. They own actions. Exactly. Accountability. Some men need to take up accountability. Ooh, ooh. 2 old to be doing that. Exactly. What's the point? It's her life. It's her life, not yours. Hers. Making a leap. Hell no. Sugar daddy money. Sugar daddy money. Good looking, he decent, not good looking. Exactly. 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 Desperate women. Women that need money. Sugar daddy. Sugar daddy. Sugar daddy. He being all women with money. That's the thing. Exactly. These clowns keep sending me want the money. Straight clowns. Cough, cough. Exactly. Thank you. Just a highlight, just a highlight, just a highlight. Shut up, Jessica. Yeah, 'cause there's some ugly men's out here. Ugly men. Bitter men. He don't. He don't. He don't. He don't. He don't. Who cares? And them marriages didn't last either. I was, ooh, Mr. West should have just left him. I don't even know why he was in that panel and getting them votes. Cause he hurt. Like Kevin Samuels, he's hurt. He's a hurt man. Like Kevin. That's why he taking up for Kevin. He hurt. Exactly. Exactly. No, he ain't. Period. Exactly. Some women. Physical appearance. Boy, bye. Exactly. That have nothing to do with it. He wealthy, he got money. That's what they want. They want their money. They want that your money. He attract the name of gold diggers. Boom, shots fired. Jessica, stop lying. Can't disable Dusty. Exactly. Jessica, somebody need to slap you, hoe. Big eyes. Sounding like a female. How these folks they gonna predict about this man wife? They really weird. Really? Oh, I can't stand these dusties. They just some ignorant, dumb fools. So them dusters need therapy. Mental illness at this. Right.
15 years younger than him, a 35-year-old who ends up dating a 19-year-old or whatever, and a man who is 35 who specifically says, I need to get an 18 or 19-year-old. There's not a difference between the two.
All right. I just want to interject here, if I may. Earlier this evening, Mr. West and I discussed a personal vignette from my own life. My father met my mother when he was 35 and she was 19, and they married after a whirlwind courtship of a month. Okay, I just want to make sure I got this right, because I don't want to misquote you, Mr. West. Are you suggesting that my father was, quote, pervy because he saw my mom crossing Broad Street in one of those tight old school white nurses uniforms that nurses used to wear back then on a warm spring day back in the day, and he pressed a U-turn in the middle of the street and pulled up, got out, and spit game, and they got married 30 days later? Are you?
Not at all. Not at all. I literally just said the opposite. I literally just got done saying, if by happenstance, if just, life happens and someone ends up with someone 15 years younger than them, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. And many times that has led to beautiful marriages, as it sounds like it did in your father's case. My parents were like 8.5 years apart. My mom was almost 17 when my dad met her. He was like 24. She was a preacher's daughter. They were living out in the middle of nowhere. There were not, tons of women, and my dad was starting to look for a quality woman, starting to get serious about religion and going to church and stuff. He was a logger, and they didn't have a whirlwind romance. They took like 4 years for them to get married. But obviously, I don't think there's anything pervy about what your dad did. Let me ask you this. Was your dad a guy who was like, no, I have to have an 18 or 19-year-old, or he just see a hot girl and go talk to her?
Well, the latter.
Then he falls exactly in what I just said. The guy who, by happenstance, met someone much younger. We have a couple at our church that just got married last year or year before and just had a baby 6 or 8 months ago, just a few months after our youngest son was born. They must have a 12 or 14-year age gap. Great couple. Like, nothing at all wrong with it. It just kind of happened. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. That's why I said I'm specifically talking about guys who idolize like 18 and 19-year-old women, the kind of guys who are like chomping at the bit, who, if the age of consent was 16, they'd be going after those. If it was 14, they'd want to go after those. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
But your parents sound like they're one.
All right, thank you. I would like to ask a follow-up question if I could. Mr. West, all right. So bringing it back to Mr. Sanders, I'm trying to understand where the pervy, quote-unquote, remark came in relation to Mr. Sanders. In the call in question that we are analyzing, Mr. Samuels did not express a particular interest for a woman of a particular age, younger or older.
It wasn't directed at Kevin.
Oh, I see. So this has nothing to do with Mr. Sanders.
Only in that it's kind of on the same topic, but I mean, I wasn't specifically talking about him.
Okay, so please explain how it does have some type of tangential connection to Mr. Samuel vis-a-vis the call in question that we're analyzing. Please explain.
Well, we're just talking about the idea of men who idolize much, much, much younger women and make it out to be like that's the only thing you should go for. That's the only thing that you should ever go for. You should never. If you're 50. Don't go out and date those. Don't go down and date those attractive 44, 45-year-olds. You got to be looking at those 20-somethings. That we're talking about that issue. So I don't see how that would be.
So, Mr. West, my question to you is this: did Mr. Samuels express at any point in this over 20-minute conversation that he has with the lady in question, did he express any type of preference one way or the other with regard to a woman's age? Did he specifically say, I only deal with women that are X years old? Did he say that at any point in this conversation, sir?
He did not, in so many words, express his preference, which is why I'm not, when I talk about Kevin, I'm mostly saying I think he's delusional. I think he's exaggerating, that kind of thing. I'm not saying, he's a pervert who chases way, 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 way younger women.
Well, you
maybe
say he's a loser, right?
What's that?
You say he's a loser, right?
I think my wife might say that. I don't know if I do or not.
Okay, hold on right quick.
You can pull it up. I'm not trying to deny it. I'm saying I don't know if I say that.
I will. Here we go.
That relationships with giant age gaps fail all the time.
Right. It's like a 99% divorce rate. It's insane.
Yeah, it's at least in the 90s. Like when you get like 20-year gaps and stuff, the relationships that are the most successful are people that are like within 5 years of each other.
Right.
People who are peers, people have the same life experience, people could have gone to high school together. I mean, personally, I never understood the appeal. Like you'll run into some of these gross, like pervy guys who are always like, "Oh yeah, like the hottest women, like 18 and 19." And it's like, what? Like, you're like 35, bro. Like, why do you think that? Like, that's a child. Like, the youngest girl I ever dated was like 5 or 6 years younger than me. It didn't work out for obvious reasons. She wanted to go be stupid. Like, women that age are dumb, and they're not worth hanging out with. I mean, obviously there's going to be rare exceptions, but those rare exceptions are like the exceptions that prove the losers. I think it's really stupid.
There we go. Okay, so let me get the context for when you said losers, all right? Oh, by the way, I already got where you said pervy. All right, but let's see.
Yeah, right. About as stereotypically masculine as you can get. So you don't get to just call me feminine and now you win the argument. No one can take you seriously. I can't take you seriously. You look like the most uncredible person alive when you call someone like me feminine. So just for the record, to any men out there who think that I'm just like agreeing with my wife to avoid problems, I agree with her because I agree with her. I think that, I think that men that like pursue significantly younger women are losers. I think it's really stupid. I mean, nowhere did I specifically call Kevin a loser. I said, you guys like validate everything I say.
Okay, fair enough. You didn't call Kevin a loser.
Nor did you call him a pervert. So we got that straight. We got that.
I didn't call him a pervert. Like I lambasted his advice. I really said very little personally about the man.
All right, fair enough. We just want to make sure we get clarity because these kinds of things can take on a life of their own. So we just want to make sure we stick to the facts.
You guys need a better autistic fact checker.
Yeah. Mr. Game Changer, I hand the questioning back to you.
Okay, so are you aware that, because you say that you don't agree with the current media system and how it encourages women to wait until they're 38 plus to begin to seek marriage and things like that. And that's something that you and I definitely agree on. I do think that there will be a large part in that type of behavior. Are you aware, and I don't think you are, and I don't want you to get defensive when I say this. I want you to think of this objectively. Are you aware that by stating or even insinuating or implying in any way that this woman has a chance at finding Mr. Right at this stage in her life, you're encouraging other women, younger women, many of whom have listened to this, millions of women who have listened to this, to wait until they become six figures before they request a six-figure guy, sometimes taking them into the age of 35, and in her case, 32.
No, I don't think I'm doing that at all. Even how many times in this discussion already, even as I'm saying, yeah, this woman does have a chance to find a quality relationship, how many times have I also said, obviously, ideally, people should be getting married much younger? I'm also saying that. So sure, you could say I'm encouraging that if you clip tiny little sound bites, but that's not an honest way to have a discussion.
Okay, but by saying that she has a reasonable chance, and all Kevin is really saying is that she should consider the same 45-year-old man with the nonprofit that you stated. Now your wife isn't saying that, but he's suggesting that as well. The ones that she calls beneath her. So all they're saying is that, and basically what you're saying is that, and what your wife is saying is that this woman is okay, and that there is somebody out there for her, and she will find this person. That is hope. Now, it's not reasonable because you can't find this person. You, sir, in your circle, cannot find somebody that you can set her up with, can you? I asked you this in the chat room. So it's not reasonable for her to do this. And it's not reasonable for a woman to wait until she is six figures.
Listen, stop. I got to cut you off here.
Okay.
As someone else pointed out, someone at one point said, look, you can't compare Oregon with New York and LA or whatever. I can't find anyone eligible in my friend circle because I'm from redneck-ass Oregon and Northern California where everyone's married by their late 20s. At least all the quality people are. Mm-hmm. In bigger cities where there is, unfortunately, a lot more liberalism and emphasis on careerism over family and that sort of thing, people get married later. I don't know where she's from. She's from
she's from New York or Los Angeles. She's actually from Greenville, North Carolina.
But still a pretty big city and on the eastern seaboard. That's very different.
I see. So a woman should wait till she makes six figures if she lives in a pretty big city.
I didn't say that. Hey, you lied.
What you're doing.
I did not say that. I'm saying that there are more eligible
scenario. You're trying to create a scenario where she can reasonably find a mate. She can't. Just like you feel that Kevin Samuels cannot reasonably find a woman in her 20s, she cannot reasonably find a six-figure mate. Now, I do want to point out that the video has came out over a week ago, and millions of people have seen it. And do you know how many of these six-figure guys seen her face and say, you know something, I want a piece of that? How many?
How many? You know how many? I'm guessing you have no idea.
I do have some idea. She just recently did another video requesting for more men. Therefore, 0 is the number. The number is 0.
You delusional.
So, can we just let it be known that we have a perfect example of how the manosphere is full of autists?
What do you think autism is?
Are you on the spectrum? I gotta ask because, you do not know how to have a conversation.
Okay, but if I were, would that be the way to address it? So you accuse this person of being a jerk to her, and you would what if I were a spectrum, sir? Wouldn't that make you the worst ass on the world? This person is just
a conversation where you're cutting me off while I'm saying things and twisting my words. No, I would have no qualms with telling you you are a socially awkward person.
No. Go for it. Say what you're gonna say. You were cutting me off, but go ahead.
What I was trying to say was that my point is that where she is, it's entirely plausible that there are more men her age. You can't say, you and your social circle of dozens don't know a single man who earns six figures you could set her up with. So clearly there's none. That's a total non sequitur. That's a terrible argument.
Okay, can I respond? In addition to my social circle of dozens and World Star Hip Hop's, viewership of millions, she still wasn't able to find one.
How do you know
that? This has been a week. You don't know that because of this she won't find someone.
How long does it take?
To find a serious relationship? Probably not a week.
To find somebody that's even interested.
Exactly.
She hasn't found anybody interested.
She did a follow. Okay, David, did you watch the follow-up interview?
So when was the follow-up interview shot? Several days ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking, there was a gap of what, 4, 5, 6 days in between? How do you know she hasn't been working and hasn't responded to people? How do you know that there won't, in time, be someone that gets in touch with her? What do you think? I think men are just going to be I got to go get this woman right now. What?
Right. Well, I think that we know that the same way you know that women aren't beating down Kevin Samuels' door. It's speculation at best. Now, you make the speculation to prove your point. For whatever reason, you don't feel that a 20-year-old woman would be interested in Kevin Samuels. We don't feel that a high-value man would be interested in her. She has the opportunity to prove otherwise.
Period. You lying.
And you're already deciding that she's failed at it because it's been a week and she's not married yet. So
Oh, well, she's not married, nor has she stated that anybody is interested. She has no suitors. Now, you say that she probably was busy, but she wasn't that busy to where she did the interview, was she? She's still out looking for penis that she haven't found.
I don't even know what to do with these arguments.
Yeah, that's what people who lose arguments do, like nothing.
No, I was having a great conversation with Obsidian. You were just not a person who's worth talking to.
Okay. So, Obsidian, why do you think the reason is that she hasn't found a man in the millions of men that's seen the video?
Well, several reasons. One, she's not attractive enough.
Okay.
Two, she is a baby mama. We make the distinction. She is a baby mama. She's not divorced, not widowed. She's a baby mama. That means she made the decision in the 21st century where all manner of birth control options and abortion on demand is available, and she chose to bring the term a pregnancy, give birth without benefit of marriage in the 21st century. Number three, she brings nothing to the table that a high-value, financially successful man would want non-sexually. Those are the main three reasons. I would also say number four, by the way. And I don't expect Mr. West to be aware of this, given the fact that he is a young white man and he is in the state of Oregon. But according to the website blackdemographics.com, under the male statistics section, there is a graph called Where Are the Black Men with Jobs?
Game changer.
The number one place for black men with jobs, full-time employment, is San Diego, California, where we have 167 well-earning black men for every 100 black women. And the bottom fifth is St. Louis, Missouri, with 78 well-earning black men for every 100 black women. But in the smaller metropolitan areas, we see in the bottom fifth of the smaller cities, Greenville, North Carolina, has only 75 well-earning black men for every 100 black women. Greenville being important because this is where the lady in question resides. I would say in summation, Mr. Game Changer, to answer your question again in summary. Number one, she does not have the looks to attract such a man. Number two, she is a baby mama. Number three, I forgot to add this, she is middle-aged for a woman. The average lifespan of a black woman, again, according to blackdemographics.com, is about 78. She is 35, literally at midlife. Number four, she does not offer anything non-sexually that such men would want. And number six, she resides in a sucky area because such men are a very short supply if they exist at all.
Obsidian, would you recommend that she expand her dating pool or that she reduce it to only, say, 10% of the population?
Given all of the parameters that I've listed, her chances of attracting such a man as she has defined herself are very slim, and as a result, she must expand her options. That is to say, lower her standards.
Would keeping her current status and eliminating, say, a guy who makes $45K at a nonprofit, would she risk losing her remaining fertile years on a quest that is not likely to bear fruit?
It's all concerned.
Okay, and last and certainly not least, what do you always say about people that resort to ad hominem attacks?
In the words of Socrates, when the debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser.
Oh, okay. So if somebody was to say autism, never mind.
That would be an and a form of slander.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
It's exactly what his wife resorted to at the end of her last video as well.
Yeah, of course.
They both resorted to the same thing.
Of course. Jessica, for the record, what names have I called him?
You annoying me.
None.
Crystal, a lot of my words.
For the record, what names have I called him?
None.
Okay, thank you.
Did you accuse me of calling Kevin Samuels a loser?
And I proved otherwise.
You're right. You still accused me of it. And you were trying to prove otherwise.
You accused me of being autistic.
I asked if you were, but sure.
Anyway. I have to be called Kevin Samuels a loser, huh? And there's the dead silence.
Sure. I was just waiting to hear what
yes, Mr. West, so that we're clear, I have absolutely no problem with the lady in question or any woman desiring what she wants. That's never been in dispute. Nor has it been in dispute that the lady in question is quite successful in her business. As a matter of fact, as a man that comes from a long line of proud Black businessmen and women, I think that's a very good thing. I have no problem with it. My grandmother, my mother, my aunties, and sisters were and are very successful businesswomen, Black businesswomen in their own right. Got no problem with that. God bless them. Hope she opens up a chain of pet grooming business. I think that's wonderful. That's not in dispute. In dispute is whether a woman with the parameters that we have defined is in a position to attract the kind of man she has made clear that she wants. Mr. Samuels, in his professional expert opinion, which she specifically sought out, says no. The statistics that we discussed earlier, Mr. West, says no. My personal opinion, which no one asked, I am not a professional corporate executive. I am not yet a hugely successful dating coach. But if anyone would have asked me my opinion, I would say no. All the arrows and indications suggest that the chances of the lady in question attracting for a serious, long-term, monogamous, emotionally profound relationship or marriage are slim.
I think there's some fair arguments that you're making there. And I think that if that was what Kevin Samuels had focused on, pointing out to her why, hey, broaden your horizons a little bit more, I think that would be fair. And I don't think he would have got this reaction. He's getting this reaction because he just acts like it was impossible that any wealthy man could ever want her, even though to a 45-year-old wealthy man, she's very much a younger woman.
He didn't say it was impossible. He said it's unlikely.
I feel like
Jessica,
you are making a much more reasonable and charitable argument than Kevin made.
Well, to be fair, I wasn't accosted and bullied upon on a show in which is part of my business, and being accosted, much like the legally gay married couple, which I support. I support gay marriage. I'm a conservative like you, and I support gay marriage in accordance with the First Amendment right to freedom of association. I support it. But that same gay couple then barged into a Christian bakery and demanded that the baker make them a gay cake. I would imagine that said Christian baker would not be too happy to oblige. My point being, Mr. West, that I can understand Mr. Samuels's consternation at being accosted by a woman while he's conducting a live show, which is part of his business, and demand that he accede to her particular demands. I cannot say that he would be charitable in that moment, and I dare say, Mr. West, I most certainly would not be charitable in that moment.
I mean, he took the call and talked to her for, 20, 25 minutes? He could have easily just hung up. I remember when years ago, when I was in the Army, Rush Limbaugh was like talking crap about Julian Assange and how he's such a liberal. And I tried to get onto his show to set him straight, and I wasn't able to. So the next day I called in with all my stuff so I could tell him, Julian Assange is not a liberal. He's exposed a bunch of government corruption. He's exposed a bunch of corrupt, like climate change studies, stuff like that. He's exposed a lot of things that are more conservative and libertarian in nature. And I was promptly hung up on by Rush Limbaugh. He didn't care. So even though I didn't make it on the show for a few seconds. The point being, the host of the show could easily have just cut her off. So, I don't think anyone would have cared if she'd been pushy and he was rude, dismissive, and hung up onto her in a few seconds. He talked to her for 25 minutes. He changed the course of the show. I don't want to hear this, he was so put upon and bullied. And, what? Are we going to try to make the argument on one hand that this guy's some, great, successful alpha male, and on the other hand that he was bullied by a woman he could have hung up on in 2 seconds on his own show? That's absurd. You can't hold those two thoughts at the same time.
Well, I would say first, before I answer your question, Mr. West, first I want to thank you for your service to our country, number one. Number two, I would not in any way attempt to suggest that Mr. Samuels is a victim. He was not. We all heard the call where he agreed to take her call and to use it as a teaching tool. That means that he consented to taking her call. So by definition, he cannot.
So then he kind of loses the option to say that he was being all bullied and stuff.
Well, what we can say is that she was very rude. We can say that.
I don't see anything that she did as being all that rude. She called in with a question. He took it. He had the option to move on. He agreed to go with it. I don't see what she did that was rude.
Are you a businessman, Mr. West?
I wouldn't call myself a businessman. I guess I'm technically a business owner since I do like freelance video work and stuff. But
have you ever worked with rude clients, Mr. West?
I've definitely worked with rude people before. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it is possible as a business owner to come into contact with rude individuals with whom you are being asked to do expert work. We both agree on that.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Mr. Samuels is a professional. He was approached by a woman in a very rude way to do work for her.
I see. I just disagree. But I don't view someone calling into a show as someone asking him to do work. It's just a conversation. I don't think we're gonna agree on this point.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. West. What do you think it's possible for a woman to be rude?
Oh, absolutely. Women are rude all the time.
And okay, so since it happens frequently, all the time, your words work.
She didn't do anything rude. She was just on her phone. She didn't do nothing rude, dummy.
In any other instance, when women come in and are demanding, when
you don't think that woman was demanding in that moment? That that Mr. Samuels accede to her particular.
No, not really. He just asked her a question. I mean, like when woman comes into a business, something, she gets mad at they're not enforcing a mask mandate or whatever, and so she comes in there and starts getting all bitchy and saying she's gonna call the police on him or something. I'm like,
let me ask you a question. All right, fair enough. Let me ask you this question: how many shows have you listened to of Mr. Samuels, where he takes calls from black women from the audience? How many shows have you actually listened to?
I've only listened to this segment. I've never listened to anything else. I know very little about the man besides what I've seen on the show and pretty good familiarity with what I would call the manosphere.
Okay. I don't know if you're aware of this fact, but Mr. Samuels has about 6 months of material in which he does his shows and takes calls from the audience. What you heard is by no means an aberration. It is very much the norm. I have tape right here I can play where he's taking calls from similarly rude and pushy black women.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it. Like I said, I don't really have anything I don't think I've said really anything particularly personally bad about Kevin, besides that I think he's exaggerating, a little delusional about his appeal.
What is he deluded? Can you help me? What he's deluded about?
I do not think that he has nearly the appeal to 20-something women that he thinks he does.
Okay. So, are you aware of the fact that Mr. Samuels at present has about 250,000 subscribers here on YouTube?
Yes.
He's telling the truth.
Are you
Them
aware of
young
the fact
women
that
look
Mr.
at him
Samuels
as a
also
sugar
has
daddy.
somewhere over 100,000 subscribers on Instagram?
I mean, I could assume that. I don't really use Instagram, so I don't know.
But neither do I, but okay. Are you aware of the fact that he did a live show tonight where upwards of 10,000 live viewers tuned in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware that he does those pretty much daily.
Okay. Prior to the events of the past few weeks, he was cruising at about 4,000 to 5,000 live viewers a night for the past 6 months.
So you're saying his message resonates with people?
Okay. Would you agree with me, Mr. West, with an individual pulling those kind of live viewer numbers night in and night out for 6 months straight? Would you agree with me that that's a proxy or a indicator of significant appeal?
I mean, he's certainly been successful in building an audience within, a specific niche. Sure.
And
real quick, let me address this comment that popped up here. Your wife perpetuated for Black women not to settle. I don't see a problem with that. Gave the illusion she married a 100K man, not a $15 per hour man, and co-signed that Black men are worthless. I disagree with the characterization that she co-signed that Black men are worthless. And my wife never gave the illusion that she married a 100K man at all. I'm getting close to the point where hopefully next year I'll make 100K. We'll see. I'm definitely making a lot more than I was when we first got married. But my wife never implied anything. This is just going right back to the twisted argument that she said every woman should at the very least expect to make 100,000. She never said that. She was very, very clearly, specifically talking about the woman at the center of this controversy because of the level of income that she's making.
So do you think that the woman that's in the center of the controversy deserves a higher paid man than your wife?
I don't think it's about deserving. I think it's about the way my wife framed it was what is emotionally healthy. My wife was not making a ton of money at all. She just had a typical menial, job that a young millennial woman would have when we met. She didn't need me to be making tons of money because she wasn't. So it wasn't going to throw off the dynamic. And frankly, given my personality and given what I'm doing and why I wasn't making a ton of money when we met, basically because it was sort of like I was in the almost like the startup phase of my career. What's that? Oh, sorry, that's when I said something. She probably could have been making a fair bit more than me, and before that dynamic was thrown off. Now, if she'd been making $200,000 a year, I could see why she might be a little bit like, is this guy just using me to pay for him to be like a poor, struggling, starving artist?
So a childless woman in her 20s didn't ask for a guy who makes 100K, but a child-dead woman who's 35 and average looking is what you're saying?
To be frank, also I'll throw out there, I don't really think this woman's average looking. The fact that she's thin, seems to be in pretty good shape, puts her well above a lot of people.
One who's self-proclaimed.
So wait, what would you rate her out of 10?
Would I rate her out of 10?
Yeah.
I'd probably need to see more of a full body shot to really give her a rating.
Just facially, what would you give her out of 10?
But facially, and from what I can see of her body, I'd put her in the 7 range.
You can't use 7 because 7 is the number everyone uses. So if you can't use 7,
pretty typical number,
right? Because it's like a really safe space, right? So if you can't use 7, where would you rate her?
Here, I have a picture. Let me share screen.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate her?
Let me see his picture real quick. He's pulling up like a full body shot from her Instagram.
Okay,
or something.
yeah.
Let me see. Can you move the? Yeah, there we go. There. I'd probably give her, like, if we can't use 7, I don't know, 7.1, 7.2, a little of it. She has a pretty nice body.
What would you rate your wife, if you don't mind me asking?
My wife, I'd probably put her in the mid 8 range, and going up as she ages, definitely. She's hotter now than she was when she was young, which is something that drew me to her, especially seeing how good her mom looks now.
So your wife, who was an 8 and in her 20s when you met her, shouldn't ask for a 6-figure guy, but a woman who's a 7.1 at 35 with a child should.
Yes, this is where I think you guys are ridiculous. You're acting like romantic relationships are a math equation, and they just aren't.
No, they're not. Which is why a 20-something can get with a 51-year-old guy.
Let me tell you something. Like this woman wasn't. She didn't say, "I need my guy to be 6'2", ripped, 6-pack abs, over 100,000 a year." She didn't say all that. No, she said all of that. Where did she say that?
I just said no.
Pull up the clips.
I just said no. She didn't say that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I apologize. I heard you wrong. I thought you said no. She did say that. Yeah, she didn't say that. If that was the case, you can start being like, bring all this in. Like, no. You don't get that. But just making a lot of money does not all of a sudden mean that, like, you're everything. You're the complete package.
Exactly.
There's no reason this 35-year-old woman couldn't have easy success with a 41-year-old divorced dad with a bit of a dad bod going on, or a lot of a dad bod going on. Like, what? Why would she not be totally? But, like, if you saw this woman dating a man who was just looked like a typical 40-something dad with a good job, they're climbing out of a nice car, would you think they look weird together? No. Exactly. So why are you acting like this is such an absurd thing for her to want?
They wouldn't look weird together because I would assume that they would have gotten together at a younger age, and the 13-year-old son was his as well. She has shown a bad track record of not creating and sustaining a relationship. Now, if I were to ask you what qualities you love most about your wife, I'm pretty sure that she hasn't stated that she possessed any of them. I'd like to ask you, because you say that you couldn't get a quality woman in her 20s. What makes you believe that she is a quality woman?
That this woman is a quality woman?
The woman on the screen, yes.
On the screen? I don't know anything about her. I don't know if she's a quality woman or not. But if we're working off that assumption,
So she might not be any different than the gold diggers that you said.
Right. I just wanted to touch on that because
I don't.
it's going off the assumption that she's a good woman and has all of these qualities. But when we're talking about younger women who are willing to date older men, he immediately goes off the assumption that they're all promiscuous, they're all gold diggers, and
because
all of the assumptions are just perfectly fitting your narrative.
So just to be clear, a woman in her 20s is a gold digger because she is she's looking for an older man with money. And this is a woman who is looking for an older man with money. She is really a younger woman looking for a older man with money. So if a man is to date a gold digger, wouldn't she be like on the back of the gold digger line?
I did not see. You're just putting words in people's mouth.
No, I'm asking the question. It's the question. I end expecting a high pitched bow. It's a question.
Wanting a man this woman wanting a man who is reasonably financially secure is not her being a gold digger.
Okay.
I don't consider that being a gold digger.
You just said that we do not know if she's a gold digger or not, correct?
Yes.
What I'm saying is that from a man's point of view, the only thing that separates her from a 25-year-old is 10 years.
Okay, and that 10 years means a lot to her development as a person, her emotional maturity, her cultural references, what she would
say that she's matured significantly than an average 25-year-old. Jessica's 25. Has she displayed any hints that she's more mature than Jessica?
I don't really know either of these women, but I would assume this woman's more mature, yes.
Do you think that a high-value man should, not knowing if either of these women are mature or gold diggers or anything like that, do you think that he should go for Jessica or the women in the picture?
I have no idea what Jessica actually looks like. I'm not entirely convinced that picture is actually her, so I cannot answer that.
Provided that the picture is her. If it's not, then it is of a 25-year-old, I'm sure.
Provided that the picture is the same, I can't really see it right now. It's underneath the live icon, but from what I've seen, I would assume they're kind of in the same ballpark looks-wise.
Okay, well now you know, Jessica, you're 7.1. So if I had to choose between a 25-year-old childless 7.1 and a 35-year-old child dead 7.1, I would choose the 25-year-old 7.1 simply because I can enjoy it for 10 years more.
This is why I keep accusing you of being autistic, because you are a robot who is choosing based on numbers. You said nothing like
numbers. I know of this. Oh, I know that she gardens, something I don't give a crap about, and I know that she has a 13-year-old boy, and I know 13 is a number. However, that is not a good thing. It's a very unlucky number. So, yeah, 25 seems like a better choice right now.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm in my early 40s.
Early 40s?
Yeah.
So, would that decision for you change based on their values and their beliefs? Like, where do you put looks and age in that metric?
As far as do I value looks and age over values and beliefs? Yes. Is it terrible? No. Is it?
Hold on. You said you value looks and age over values and beliefs.
Yes.
That's why you're in your early 40s and single, I guess.
Actually, I'm not saying. Well, do you count not married being single?
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship with somebody that's 31. To answer your question, she's not childless either.
Are you planning to marry her?
Yes.
That's good.
I go into every relationship with the understanding the possibility of marriage can happen.
That's good.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I don't believe him. I believe he lying. He just said that to try to make himself look good.
In regards to Game Changer, on the question of numbers, you made a statement, words to this effect, please correct me if I misquote you, that the problem with men like Game Changer, and I took that to mean by extension the Black Manosphere, was this, that you reduce human relationships to a mathematical equation. Did you make that statement, sir? Did I misquote you?
A little bit. I was specifically kind of accusing him of doing that. I think a lot of them do that. This is why I brought up my wife.
A lot of them meaning who? I just want to make sure we all know exactly who you're talking about. But I don't want to.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to explain. So my wife texted me. Let me pull this up real quick from the other room. What did she say? She said it was something. It was Radical Online. It was an article about radical online communities and their toxic allure for autistic men. I may have some problems with this article if I read the whole thing, because I'm sure that they're calling things radical that I would find not particularly radical or good.
Okay.
But then the article says that 1 in 4 self-reported an autism diagnosis, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it is something to be aware of when we're having this discussion. I think it's a very important thing. It doesn't get brought up that much. I think that, I don't think the hosts and the people kind of driving the community have this issue. But I think a lot of the fan base do, a lot of the listenership and audience do, and I think it drives them to take things wrong. It drives them to, take people's, personal advice and anecdotes and boil them down into little equations where it's like, oh, he says that a high-value man should date younger women, so we're going to draw the cutoff. The wall is at this age, and nothing beyond that is good. That's what I was saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, because you broke it down to numbers when you say women in their 20s aren't interested in guys who are 45. Those are 2 numbers.
Well, I would also add mostly, women in their 30s.
So that's 3 numbers. So when you say that autism are breaking things down to basic numbers, you broke things down to basic numbers when you made the assumption that women in their 20s would not be interested in a 51-year-old man. These are numbers, sir.
Right, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
haven't boiled everything down to numbers. I'm not.
Nor did I accuse you of such a thing. However, your process of boiling things down to numbers is very similar to the process of boiling things down to numbers that you accuse us of when we give our judgment of her. By the way, speaking of numbers, your wife is an 8.2 and she's a 7.1. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask Mr. West about, I will accept this premise. Fair enough. So, would Mr. West agree with me that women absolutely make mating decisions based on a mathematical calculation of the men in which they're considering? Would he agree with that?
Like 6 figures.
I think they take things into account. I don't think it's a mathematical equation. Women tend to be fairly fickle.
Okay.
All right. Look at women. Look at the stereotype of all the women who will go for the bad boy.
Okay.
What mathematical equation are they doing there? The number they're looking at is maybe how tall they are.
Well, when I think of people breaking something down to mathematical equations, I think your wife saying 200K and then saying 30K for the gas station guy, and then saying because the 200K is greater than the 30K, it will be not compatible based on the numbers. That's what I think of when I think of somebody breaking things down to numbers. Continue.
Well, that's not what she said. What she was saying was
that what we know is this. Now, and I have very little interest in the inner workings of your marriage, but since Mrs. West has gotten herself involved in this conversation, and since you, Mr. West, are now involved in this conversation,
right.
I think it is fair. I think that your marriage now is part of the story. I think that in that sense, it's fair game now. So with that being said, and I don't know either one of you personally, I'm only going by what I can see in front of me. It's clear to me that your wife made a critical decision based on your height. How do I know that's true? Because we already established, one, you said you're about 6'1". So we know in the United States, among adult American men, about roughly 15% of men are your height. We know that. We also know that taller men have more mating opportunities, long and short term, than shorter men. Your wife could have gotten with any man, but she chose a man in that 15%. That's a number. 6 women. 15% of them, that's another.
Jessica, if I may, could you share the screen? Jessica, are you there? Okay, thank you. All right, so
and 25, if I saw a 45-year-old man, I would have literally thought it was the Crypt Keeper.
So, is this not
literally?
Is this not just breaking things down to numbers? Because she said nothing about any other aspect, but the fact that
it's not numbers, and the fact that you're only hearing the numbers only reinforces my opinion.
20 and 45 are not numbers. Let's hear it again.
We have better luck if that were the case.
She just keep laughing.
So he's sitting here telling her this while simultaneously saying the most delusional stuff I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was 20 and 25. If I saw a 45-year-old man, I would have literally thought it was the Crypt Keeper.
Okay, so your wife seemed to just see numbers.
You haven't caught me in the gotcha that you think you have.
I'm sorry?
You have not caught me in
No, I'm not saying that I did. What I'm saying is that she reduced the situation to numbers. Correct?
She did. You're reducing it to numbers. Please listen to me.
So did you see something else besides numbers here? Like, did you say if I seen that guy who's 45, I would think he's the Crypt Keeper? Or if I seen a guy keeping a crypt at 45, I would think he's the Crypt Keeper? Or did she say if I seen a 45-year-old man, which is a number, and I am 25, I would think he's the Crypt Keeper? Her judgment on if somebody is the Crypt Keeper or not isn't based on if he's keeping a crypt. It's based on his number. Just saying.
You are really only backing up my assertion that you are coming at this from a place of social awkwardness and inability to understand human emotion.
So what emotion is your wife?
Please listen to what I'm saying, dude. Shut up for a second.
Well,
yes, she says numbers. And you hear that, and all you think about are the numbers. What you're not thinking about are, she's talking about herself as a 25-year-old seeing a 45-year-old man. You don't just see a man and know how old he is. So she's seeing a man who she's visibly seeing. This is a man who's old enough to be my dad, and she's thinking about all the different life experiences. The fact that he could have a daughter her age. The fact that he's more wrinkled, the fact that he's closer to death. There's all these other things that are emotional that yes, she's talking about the number because that is this distinct and quantifiable thing that we can talk about. But when someone is 45 years old, it's not just a number. There's a whole lot of other stuff that goes along with that. The fact that you can't see that is honestly astonishing to me, that you're just taking everything so literally.
If I didn't take it literally, I would just be adding a bunch of crap and making up stuff like you are on behalf of your wife. Since I'm not doing that,
I'm sorry my wife didn't sit there and explain that 45-year-old men are older and look older and more wrinkly than younger men. I'm sorry she didn't explain that. I'm sorry that you don't have the ability to interpret that yourself.
All right, but you're saying that you're acknowledging that people in general don't want somebody that's older and more wrinkly, right?
Yeah,
Is it fair to say that somebody like your wife or somebody that's 35
more wrinkly than 25?
No, this is what I'm saying, David. Why can you acknowledge it one way, but you can't
acknowledge it? I am saying, oh man, you guys should just let him sit.
You just said it.
Me too. She's basically just saying that people are interested in people roughly their own age. Look, I'm friends with people of different ages. There's old guys I've known for years from church that I have very good friendly relationships with. There's younger guys I've met at church that I've, helped teach stuff to. At the end of the day, my closest male friendships are guys within 2 years of my age because we have the same life experiences. You're going to click the best, generally speaking, with your own immediate demographic cohort. The same is true of romantic relationships. You're going to have more success with people in a certain age range. You know, I do tend to think that probably a slightly older man and a slightly younger woman is a very good dynamic. A man who's, 3, 4, 5 years older just has had a little bit of time to get out of the house, start his life, get a little bit of money so he can take care of his woman. That's a great dynamic. So it's not like you have to marry someone exactly your age.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that most people are attracted to people, seriously attracted, significantly outside of their age range.
So I get you, right? But when you made that statement, sort of addressing what your wife said, she was speaking purely on the physical, okay? So she said, a guy at 45 looks like the crypt keeper. And you almost agreed when you spoke about how somebody's more wrinkly and they're older. And
yeah,
so,
looks like that.
And so, okay, and so this is the thing. If you're a guy and you're able to have access to women who are more visually pleasing, which means less wrinkly, less crypt keeper looking, why would a guy not exercise those options?
Because, oh my God, because they want a woman that they can have something real with. It is going to be very hard for a man. Yes, if all you want is sex, I understand why, as a 50-year-old man, you would hook up with every 20-something that you could. But if you want something real, if you want to connect with someone that you can really get, that you won't feel like an old man around, that you'll feel like you can be yourself around, that you'll feel like you really have something in common with, you're going to want someone closer in age to yourself.
I think that's going off the. It's and to a certain extent, I can actually get what you're saying, right? I think when you're closer in age, you do have more things in common, right? But that's not to say that depending on people's personalities, that you can have things in common. So depending on somebody's, and this is the thing, if you're a guy that typically dates younger women, your personality is going to be different to a guy who typically dates older women. And therefore you have a better vibe and connection with younger women. Why? Because you're used to dealing with them. And that's something you'll notice actually as a younger person, like myself. I can tell guys who are older than me that socialize with women my age compared to guys who are older than me who don't socialize with women my age. Like, I can tell the difference. And you can tell the difference in somebody's personality and how they come across. And that means that you can have a better connection. So what I'm saying is, if you're a guy who has access to women who are in their 20s, and you've dated them before, you're more likely to form a better connection. So it's not like you have this old, granddad coming after a younger woman.
Okay.
I think this is the part where Mr. West says something.
I don't know what to say to that. We should continue the video, but I don't know. I find it really interesting that you guys are accusing me of making a hypocritical argument when I'm saying, oh yeah, a 25-year-old doesn't want a wrinkly old man. A 25-year-old doesn't want someone significantly older, and then you're like turning that around and saying, well, then if they don't want someone who's older and wrinklier, why would a man who could get a 25-year-old go for a 38-year-old or whatever?
Well, David, all I'm saying is what the two of you are doing to Kevin by saying that it is highly unlikely for him to find a serious 25-year-old is what Kevin did to her by saying that it is highly unlikely for her to find a six-figure guy. So, I mean, is that a fair assessment of the situation?
Kevin deserves it, honey.
Then please state how it's unfair. Because that's how it seems. It seems like, you are telling somebody about how limited their options are, and so is Kevin. I don't see the difference, but perhaps you can tell me because...
Well, I think one difference is that all the empirical data would support one assertion far more than it would support the other. There are far more, single mother 30-somethings who find success
with children.
That's what a single mother is. Who find successful marriages with well-off men. Then there are 20-somethings that have successful marriages with 50-something men. There's just
this empirical data.
That's what I was going to say. If you have it,
age gap relationships.
No, but then I showed you, right? So when I don't know if you listened earlier, but I actually broke down the statistics. So although you wanted to throw out